Hello and welcome to After Hours, a TV and film podcast brought to you by OTGBasketball.com, where you can find the latest and greatest NBA content out there. We are rolling on through Remembering the Office. We are now in Season 3, Episode 6. We are flying on through this, and with me on all of these episodes, and will be on all of these episodes for the foreseeable future, none other than Jack Manuel. Jack, how's it going, man?
It is a happy day for Americans, a happy day for the goddamn world. And who doesn't want to chat about some fun stuff with The Office?
Of course. Obviously, the presidential election looks to be decided as of right now. Joe Biden is president-elect over Donald Trump. There, of course, are going to be a lot of legal battles over the next couple months to ensure that this was a fair victory by Joe Biden. But it looks like Joe Biden is going to be the 46th president of the United States. But yes, this is the Office podcast. So back to the Office, in which brings joy, and you can, get away from the world and laugh a little bit. And this is the episode. What is it? Diwali. Did I say that right? Diwali.
Diwali, I think. Or Diwali. I think it's pronounced differently, but it gives me an immediate point for a trivia point here, Kory. The Office became the first American comedy series to depict the Diwali holiday. Mindy Kaling and executive producer Greg Daniels came up with the episode idea after Kaling held a Diwali. It's pronounced. It's written phonetically Diwali, and then Michael says Diwali, and other people say Diwali in the episode, so it's pronounced differently. But Kaling held a Diwali party in 2005 for the series staff. She undertook research about Indian culture, and the resulting episode was substituted in place of one that would have been actually Halloween.
Okay.
So, and also when it came to write the episode, because Mindy Kaling also wrote this episode, she had to perform a Google search as she'd forgotten many details. She explained, "I was a little embarrassed with how little I knew about it. I'm Hindu, but I'm not really a practicing Hindu, so I had to do a lot of research." Kaling was pleased to learn more about her culture, at first being concerned that Daniels and people I work with were a little antsy about assigning the Hindu writer the Indian episode. I didn't want to feel like that they had pigeonholed me, but I felt like I'd done enough episodes that it was okay. She found that making the episode was kind of the perfect meeting of being the child of immigrants and writing a comedy show. Awesome, and it makes sense that a show as diverse in its comedy and in its cast would depict the Diwali holiday, and Mindy Kaling, who is just an icon of comedic culture, to take on that role as well. So just awesome little trivia points there when I was doing my research.
For sure. And then, of course, the cold open for this episode is, in fact, Mindy, a.k.a. Kelly, putting Ryan in a kurta. And, Michael is making fun of it, saying nice dress. And then, of course, Michael goes on with his first little monologue. "Tonight, one of our most ethnic co-workers, Kelly, has invited us to a Diwali celebration put on by her community. What is Diwali, you may ask? Well, to have Kelly explain it, it's blah, blah, blah. It's super fun, and it's going to be great. Lots of gods and unpronounced names. 20 minutes later, you find out that it's essentially a Hindu Halloween." And then, of course, Michael's jealous that he doesn't have a kurta of himself, which is the end of the cold open. I think it's an okay cold open. I only gave it a C+ because I don't think it's hilarious. But I think, Michael's interpretation of how Kelly talks is somewhat funny. Impersonation, not interpretation. But yeah, what do you think about the cold open?
Yeah, I'd give it a 5.5 as well. We have strong, high standards, and we need to try and be objective, even though, we're a goddamn podcast. We don't have to have levels of objectivity involved. But just objectively speaking, by the standards of the epic cold opens, this is a good one. It's still enjoyable. It's not like it's a bad one. It was probably as good, if not, on par with last week's one with Dwight and Ryan going back and forth. But, Michael, I think like the jealousy, and also the fact that he refers to it as Hindu Halloween, is a little bit of a tipping point, sort of like a tip off to what's going to happen later in this episode.
Right, 100%, because Michael clearly doesn't understand Diwali himself right from the get-go. So let's go into some of your favorite scenes. We always start off with me. So what are some of your favorite scenes, Jack, for this episode?
I like when Angela's like, "Don't go, they eat monkey brains." Hey, stop that. That is offensive. Indians do not eat monkey brains. And if they do, sign me up, because I'm sure that they are very tasty and nutritional.
I just love how he always plays both sides.
Yeah.
Like, if it's offensive, like, no, guys, we can't. But hey, if they do, like, it's got to be good.
It reminds me of Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, one of my other favorite shows. He's like, I'm playing both sides, so I always come out on top. And it's just basically that's Michael. He doesn't want to offend anyone, but by not trying to offend anyone, he offends everyone. That's just his nature. He always offends everyone all the time.
He really does. What else you got?
I've got. It's important that this company celebrates its diversity. And you know what, Stanley? Come Kwanzaa time, I've got you covered, baby. I don't celebrate Kwanzaa. What? Really? You should. It's fun. Like, Michael celebrates Kwanzaa? Like,
yeah, I don't know why he celebrates Kwanzaa, or why he would think Stanley celebrates Kwanzaa too. Is like an interesting point. And then that leads to one of my favorite quotes from Michael. I love the people here, and if there was one thing I don't really care for is that they can be terribly, terribly ignorant about other cultures. And I don't want them embarrassing me in front of my girlfriend, Carrell. I just find that funny because Michael's worried about other people being ignorant. And it's just like, okay, when did you become the smart guy in the room? So I thought that was funny. And then I think the best part of this episode for me personally is, even though I really do actually like the stuff from the Stanford branch, the conference room stuff for this episode to me is hilarious.
It always is. And I mean, this is where it comes for me. Now, a lot of people say that Kelly is 1 in a million, and that's true, but it's also not true because frankly, there are literally billions of people just like Kelly in the world. Okay, that's just one. Okay, I'll keep going. Here are some famous idiots. Sabrun Chandrasekhar. He is a Nobel Prize winning physicist. Impressive. Apu from The Simpsons. Hilarious. Indian. M. Night Shyamalan. The Village. Unbreakable. Sixth Sense. I see dead people. Okay, spoiler alert! Like, how has he not seen The Sixth Sense? He was dead the whole time. Just stop it! What's that? Oh, whoa, where did that come from? And it's Michael and Carrell kissing. He's like a 15-year-old boy half the time, just like bragging about kissing his girlfriend and hooking up. It's like, dude, be an adult for freak's sake.
So it's funny you say that because watching this episode in particular, how Michael talks about Carrell is how I remember like my friends talking about their first ever girlfriend that they were like sexually active with.
Yeah.
It's just like, I feel like Michael was a virgin before Carrell by how he acts. He's like, man, like, I'm going to have sex probably tonight. And, look that, I kissed my girlfriend. And it's like how he goes about their relationship. It feels very, like you said, like, high schoolish, but in terms of how he sees it. And also, like, I don't know if we said this before, but Carrell in real life is Steve Carell's wife.
Yep. And I was watching this episode the other night with my family, and I told them that, and my brother knew, but my mum and dad didn't. And the history of them is, and I don't know, I know we've mentioned that on the pod before, but I'm not sure if I mentioned the fact that they met while I think they were on SNL or on comedy shows and that sort of thing, and their romance blossomed from then. We see their romance fizzle, at least on an on-screen sense, later in this episode.
For sure. And now, of course, over to the Stanford branch, I think, there aren't very many lines from, I'm gonna call him Fat Tony from the Stanford branch, but Tony going up to Karen and saying, I got my chip stuck in the vending machine, I need your skinny arms. And Karen just like, did you shake it? He's like, yeah, I shook it. Which just feels like this must be a really common trend of him not being able to get chips out for whatever reason, but I thought that was funny. And then it leads to the next scene in which Andy is talking about some sort of fake relationship in his head that he has with Karen. It's up and down, hot, cold, on again, off again, sexual attention filled type of deal. It's very Sam and Diane, from Cheers.
That kind of reminds me of Michael in terms of like how a person has to explain their joke or explain their reference. It's just like, my guy, you don't explain the reference. Explain the reference makes it lose its like impact or humor or whatever. It's so lame.
Yeah. 100%. So give me another one. I feel like we're at the point now where it's the funniest part of the show for me, this episode. When Michael hands out the sex position book, the Karman Sutra, and Creed is like, oh, that's the Union of the Monkey. And then Meredith, oh, that's what they call it. Kevin, this is the best meeting we've ever had. Thank you, Kevin. And then obviously Angela doesn't approve. And then it's just funny, like Toby realizing, like I feel like Toby was into it, and then he was like, "Oh shit! Like no! Like this is really inappropriate. Like I gotta take these." But it's absolutely fun. Like Creed's just like, that's the union of the monkey, and the Meredith's reaction, like it's heat check worthy.
I need to look this up and see if the Union of the Monkey, and see what actually comes up when I Google it. Now, the Union of the Monkey, what comes up is some bands, apparently. So it's so only urban. Actually, no, there is a sex position. You know what? We're going explicit for this podcast. And from loveboosters.com, Kory, the man is lengthened. Should I do this or not?
Do it. I'm Googling it, so I'm about to find out the Union of the Monkey.
All right. The man is lengthened on the back, the raised legs. The woman a soit on the back of the thighs of its partner by using the feet of the man like a fire. What is okay, interesting. Now, Urban Dictionary's got some stuff as well. I'm not going to use some of the words that are put here. I think, Love Boosters is a little bit more technical in their definition and vocabulary to explain it. But as Kory's face alludes, for those listening at home, make sure you subscribe to OTG Basketball on YouTube because you want to see these faces from Kory right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure Creed's done it. He's probably done it when like one of the guys slipped in, like he was talking about in previous episodes.
Yeah. This is this is something we. There's a lot of photos here, and I'm acting like I'm 10 years old again and seeing sexual positions. But yeah, the Union of the Monkey, you can find it online. And obviously Meredith has done it by her reaction to seeing the position. Toby obviously gets rid of it, and then Michael's reaction is, my Indian culture seminar was going great until Toby decided that he was too immature to deal with culturally explicit images. It's just sex. People. Everybody does it. I'm doing it. With Carrell, probably tonight.
It's so freaking lame, man. Like, all right, be real with me, Kory. Have you ever bragged about having sex with a girl in your life? Yeah, I have as well. I was 19, probably. What is Michael, like 42 or something?
Little bit different for me though, because like I lost my, like, not weird to say, like I lost my virginity to like my first ever real girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I dated her for like 5 years. Okay. So like, I wasn't like bragging really because I was only 19 when I lost mine. So I was just like, I finally did it, guys. Like, woohoo. But I feel like you always like, especially like at a young age, like even when you're like I remember like when I was dating girls, I'm not even doing anything sexual. I'd be like, yo, how about that girl I'm dating? Like pretty hot, huh? And like, you're 17 and then, but yeah, I feel like everybody, especially at a young age, you just feel superior, right? When you're in a relationship and like maybe your friends are in a relationship, you're like, look at me, you're alone, I'm not. And maybe that's karma and why I'm alone now.
Look, I'm lucky enough to have a lovely girlfriend in Scotland right now, but I don't act like Michael Scott about it, for God's sake. Just grow up a little bit, my dude. Like, no one actually cares. Like, and that's why the relationship that he ultimately ends up being the perfect one, because, and I'm not going to spoil it, but the relationship he does end up in with the final character in season 7, you know who I'm talking about, is maybe, you can make an argument that it's one of the best relationships on the show. I'm going to put it out there. In
terms of compatibility, and being with like a quote unquote soulmate, your best friend, yes. Yep. It is the definition of the relationship. Again, every relationship is perfect in its own way. Like, it's not like that relationship may not be perfect for somebody else, obviously, because we all have our own, nicks and weirdness and everything else. But that is a perfectly good relationship for two people who are clearly very weird.
Yeah, we're going to do a romantic podcast. I feel like we got some stories and we could bring in, we could share the love. Literally, that's the name of the podcast. Share the love.
Share the love.
But I've got a good segue. A relationship that isn't so perfect, Ryan and Kelly. Yeah, there we go. That was a good one.
Yes.
Ryan is meeting...
That's not perfect.
Not at all. Ryan meeting the parents, Ryan meeting the sisters. Now, they're giggling. Kelly, Zach Braff. I was just like, yeah, Zach Braff. And Ryan's like, what? Ruka, Nipa, Tiffany, stop acting like such a little loser. Just be cool. Come on, Ryan. Come on, leave me alone. I hate you guys. They said something about Zach Braff. Oh, man.
Zach Braff from Scrubs, right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I could kind of see a little bit of a comparison, a little bit.
Yeah, I can definitely see it. It's just basically like a sort of cute-looking white guy who's funny. And, BJ Novak, Zach Braff, those sort of molds of, Andy Samberg, those sort of goofy, nerdy, but cute-looking guys. And I guess, I'll bring in the trivia about about Kelly's parents on the show. Also, Kelly's parents in real life. Did you know that?
Oh, no shit. I did not know that.
Yeah, so Mindy Kaling recalls that her mother was convinced that she was the better actor, but it turns out that Greg Daniels was actually more impressed with her father and wanted to use him more. Mindy Kaling didn't want her father to become a recurring character in the show and tried to minimize his screen time. He wrote this episode. Mindy was also proud of their acting, though she admitted that their presence on the set was at first mortifying. She commented, "Of course, I sort of lapsed back into being that preteen attitude of every single thing that my parents do embarrasses me. But they were great. They were such pros. They had all those scenes with Steve Carrell, and they were completely unafraid. They got along effortlessly." That was so good. I really, really liked them.
That's good tidbit. I really had no idea that they were her parents. And her dad is definitely funny on screen because, not to get too far, it doesn't really matter. When they're talking about Ryan and his goals, like, what are your goals for my, and then like he says, like, I want to, travel, buy an Xbox, and he's like, is there anything you want to ask of us tonight? And he's just like, it's just like the way he looks is hilarious to me.
I actually liked Kelly's mum. I think she has the top lines out of the two parents. She is very fair. She is. She's very fair and very kind. Like, for those that are as ignorant as Michael Scott, very fair. Obviously, the meaning that Kelly's mum's trying to give to it is that she's quite beautiful and in that sort of regard. But he thinks that like he means literally fair, like fair. Objective, and just like fair is in like a sportsman or whatever. It's like, Michael, how could you? He's just really bad at interpreting stuff.
He really is. And to backtrack a little bit to like another funny scene, it's not even like really a scene. It's because it's not like it's 3 lines. But in the Stanford branch, when they're getting ready to have the overnight sales, they're working late. And Andy says, who's ready to party? I think Andy is really good on this episode.
I do.
He's like, are you ready to party? And he takes out the shot glasses and the Jaeger.
1, 2, shots!
Yeah. It's absolutely perfect. Karen playing off the shots, obviously, and making the face, because I know, if any of my friends are listening, this is going to be a spoiler, but when we get, obviously you drink with your friends, and I don't drink as much as I used to in my college days. Definitely had a period though where Jaeger, which is what they're drinking, I was on a really big Jaeger kick. It's really fun, especially when you mix it with Red Bull or Monster, and you're just up all night. But I pull the Karen sometimes. Like if there's a part of the night where if I get too drunk and I'm like, I don't want to black out and people are still taking shots, I'll do whatever I can to not take the shot. And if I have to like wait till everyone leaves to pour back in the bottles, I'm like, I'll do it. So I understand Karen, like I'm not going to get plastered and ruin the rest of my night here while these two idiots, get hammered.
And I'm lucky that you did it because Jim riding home on that bike, when I was watching that episode, that was the funniest laugh that I got from my mum. She just pissed herself seeing John Krasinski fall into the bushes.
Two pedals and over. I've also seen a friend of mine in real life try to ride a bicycle drunk and fall off the bike in a very similar sense, but not into the bush, into the middle of the road.
Oh, God, no.
Which is still just as funny. They're watching someone slowly keel over. So that was a good reminder.
Don't drink and drive, anyone listening, watching at home.
Don't drink and drive. Drink and ride your bike, but probably don't even do that. That's also not allowed, actually.
Just Uber, guys. Get a designated driver. And be safe, guys. Safe fun is the best fun. PSA alert.
Amen. Another funny moment I had is when they first arrived at the Diwali. Like, isn't this fun not wearing shoes? And Andrew's like, I wish some of us did. And Kevin's like, stop it. It's a disease. I've told you. Which means he must have some raunchy feet.
He does. And in one of the deleted scenes, it's revealed that he does have like a foot odor disease. Also alludes to one of our favorite episodes ever. Spoiler alert, everyone knows this. Pam and Jim's wedding. And the tissue boxes were a great conversation starter. One of Kevin's best moments, and there's a lot of
my shoes. Oh man, we threw those out. And then, of course, go ahead.
I can offer you a free breakfast, sir. They were a health hazard. Okay.
And in the same scene, same moment, that's also when Carrell and Michael arrive, to which we realize that Carrell is wearing a cheerleading costume. Michael's wearing a two-headed costume, which I think is something he also wears at one of the Halloween parties, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And of course, Carrell is upset because it's clearly not a costume party. Michael points at an Indian woman, and Carrell goes, "She's in a sari," and he's like, "That's no one's even gonna notice." As if, and then Kevin, of course, nice outfit. But I thought that was funny because they're literally completely out of place, especially her.
Yeah, and it alludes to one of the first lines in this episode where Michael is like, it's like in Indian Halloween. It's like a Halloween, and that's why they dress up. And Michael's ignorance getting people in trouble as always. And Pam's a little bit of a bitch with her line about Carrell as well.
Yeah, I mean, what she say? At least I didn't come. At least I didn't. I feel a little underdressed, but at least I'm not dressed like a slay cheerleader, right? Is that mean?
Like she
honestly though, I if it was Halloween, probably doesn't get said. But when it's not Halloween, like it's a fair statement to make. Yeah. Like if you see someone in a Halloween costume looking slutty on Halloween, it's like, all right, it's Halloween. But if you see someone in a costume that's kind of slutty, it's not Halloween, you're like, all right.
No, see, I disagree. Whatever guy or girl you want to be slutty, you be slutty. You have the right.
Yeah, okay, fair.
I mean, I get that the context that is important. Like, it's obviously a little bit odd, but everyone can express themselves how they want to express themselves. And we've called out Pam and Jim before in the past, and they were being bitchy and kind of bullies to Dwight in the season 2 episode of The Fire. And Pam calls herself out here, so we don't have to do that for her. Because she sort of realizes. And the thing is, like, she doesn't do this, like, behind the scenes or, like, when the camera's not on her. But it's, like, directly on her. And she makes those comments. So it's like she feels comfortable enough with the camera crew. And whether it's Brian behind the camera, that douchebag. That's the reason why she's saying it. But, again, Brian is a character you guys will get to know in a couple of seasons' time. We're a third of the way through the show, I think. Just off the top of my head. So we've got plenty of episodes to go.
100%. More funniness of Michael just being, ignorant, spits out food. Carrell, was it too spicy? No, these s'mores are disgusting. They're not s'mores. They're samosas. Do you think they have any s'mores? All they are is chocolate, graham cracker, and marshmallow. How difficult would that have been? Like, just, again, not understanding where he is and what's going on around him.
Yeah. Also, where the Diwali party is shot was at Grant High School, obviously mostly in the gym. School was actually in session for most of the day, and the shooting had to work around the actual school schedule. Grant High School is a popular shooting location. Jen, Melora Hardin, actually went to Grant High School, and it was also the same building where Freaks and Geeks was shot, one of the true iconic comedies ever. And when I look at especially the scenes where Angela's sort of like guarding the shoes, I'm like, I can see it now. I totally see it.
It's funny, I didn't know that, and now that you think about it, where she's guarding the shoes, and Pam goes out to talk to her, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. That's another good trivia. Now, what are some more funny moments? This is actually a pretty decent episode in terms of funny moments.
Look, I've got a lot of trivia to get through, Kory, so I'm going to let you take over for the funny moments. And I'm going to sneak in a couple more trivia points. So, We've got the dances. So, the dances in the episode were actually choreographed by Bollywood dance instructor Nakul Dev Mahajan and performed by his dance troupe, who struggled to dance more amateurishly in order to be appropriate for their characters. Because, Bollywood dances are absolutely incredible. So, to actually, dumb it down, it's like Kevin Durant in Thunderstruck. He said, the hardest thing for him is, missing all those shots. Pam's dancing, on the other hand, was actually not choreographed. That was, and I think I quote, this is from Angela Kinsey, that was just Jenna being Jenna.
I love that. Just Jenna being Jenna. It looks like she's actually having a really good time.
Yeah. I mean, when Crazy in Love comes on, if you don't get on the dance floor, there is something wrong with you.
It's a good song. Great song, actually.
Great song.
Iconic. Now, not a funny moment. You already talked about how, Kelly's mom talking to Michael, she's very fair. Not like haha funny, but cringe funny Michael. asking Carrell to propose to him, or Michael proposing to Carrell in front of everybody, in which turns out to be just 9 dates. Now, obviously, this is also part of the office romance aspect of this episode. Michael moving too fast, like he usually does, putting himself out there. And if you ever rejected or denied something, the way Carrell says, "Can we talk about this in private?" And Michael's like, "Are you kidding me?" And the fear in his face says it all, because I think we've all been there at least one time or another.
Now, as you just mentioned, according to the dialogue, it was their 9th date. But in the episode Sex Ed, which happens a couple of seasons down the track, Carrell claims Michael proposed to her on their 4th date. Some fans, obviously on Reddit and everywhere, explain this by suggesting that Michael may have actually proposed twice. Carrell could also have simply misremembered. So that's just something I wanted to bring up in relation to the line that you just uttered.
I feel like it was probably the 9th date, but like when you go down the road, you're just like, it was the 4th date. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just to emphasize how early on Michael was proposing. Probably I could see that also being like the reasoning for her down the road saying, you proposed on the 4th date, just because it outlandish, because again, it was still such a short period of time. Asking anyone to marry you after 9 dates or even 4 dates, either way, absurd.
Yeah, you don't want that Chris Humphreys, Kim Kardashian thing going on.
Yeah, it only lasts 90 days.
Yeah, less, I think. I think, his time in
yeah, it was
42, I think it was.
Even worse.
I think it was something. Oh, no, maybe that was his number for the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know. Chris Humphreys, shout out to my guy. I remember actually going to watch the Wizards game with Nick Busey and co-hosted JVT, and he contemplated buying a Chris Humphreys jersey.
Funny enough, just one more last thing. Chris Humphreys really wasn't that bad of a basketball player.
No!
He was on some pretty bad teams.
Yeah. Shout out to Chris Humphreys. Hope he's doing well, whatever he's doing with his life right now. Trivia point, Kory, before we get to a funny and trivia point that I wanted to sort of go back and forth with you. There's a couple of sing-songy moments. Angela's hostility towards Diwali is explained in a deleted scene where she explains that she feels that some people, namely Dwight, are too interested in things Indian, namely Kelly. So we've talked about in season 1 and 2 a little bit, there was that Kelly and Dwight connection. There was the little crush there. There was a little hand on the arm and stuff. But it sort of just fizzles out completely, and it becomes Ryan and Kelly, and that sort of takes over. But it would have been, I think, that like showing that as an actual scene or having that as a storyline for Angela would have fitted her character quite well.
I think it would have too, especially because she would have been in the room, for example, when Dwight said, "I love Indian women," or "I prefer Indian," or whatever that line is. It would have been something that like she heard then and couldn't let go, obviously, which would be like a good following point. I agree. What's the next trivia point?
Now, I wanted to get to Andy and Jim singing, with Karen getting very annoyed, and I can give you the name of the song. Do you want to be Andy, or do you want to be, I guess, Karen and Jim?
I'll be Andy.
All right, cool. You ready?
I went to... Wait a minute. I don't even remember the tone he said.
I'll do it. I'll be Andy. I'll be Andy then. I'll be
okay.
Andy. And you can sort of just join in with me.
Right.
I went to the doctor. I went to the mountains. I looked to the children.
Andy, no acapella.
I looked at the children. I drank from the fountain. There's more
than one answer to these questions pointing me in a crooked line.
Wait. The less I sink
my source.
The closer I am to find. The closer I am to
find.
Jonah! Are you kidding me?
It's honestly, I like Andy in this episode. It's a good Andy episode. The way he yells, "Tuna, are you kidding me?" Like he's just having such a good time. It's like, and also like with Andy, especially in these early seasons, there's very little genuine Andy moments. And this is a very genuine Andy moment of him actually being happy and excited without like lying or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love... We are massive fans of bromance moments in any TV show, any walk of life. And this is just an awesome bromance moment. Jim's like a bit drunk, a bit buzzed. And when you're a bit drunk, you want to dance a bit more. You want to sing a bit more. You get in on it. And obviously Karen's just like sober. She's like, I don't want any of this shit. The song that they sing, Kory, is Closer to Fine by the Indigo Girls. Another song that I have absolutely no idea, and another I mean, the song I know, I've heard of the song, but it's like one of those songs of like a band that's just like, oh, who's that band again?
Yeah, I definitely don't. I don't think I know it. At least doesn't sound familiar to me.
Yeah.
So I think an office romance point to touch on before would also be the fact because I forgot there's not like dialogue for it, but in the beginning they're asking like who's gonna go, and Roy's like who's gonna go, and and Kevin's like is one of your Pam's gonna be there, and end up that Pam goes, and there's no line for it, but Roy does show up.
He looks good.
Looks cleaned up, sharp, sees Pam dancing, and leaves. Which is an interesting little 30 seconds of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few little romantic points. Obviously, Kelly and Ryan is quite heavy. We see Karen sort of taking care of Jim, Michael and Carrell, and yeah, Jim and Pam and Roy. And everyone, when you sort of like a girl and you sort of see them dancing with someone else, even if it is from Pam, it's clearly just innocent fun, just having trying to have a fun night and dance with different people, meet some new people. There's no flirtation. It doesn't seem like, at least from my end, any sort of flirtatious nature to it at all. So, the Pam and Roy story is certainly not over.
No, not by a long shot. Which also leads to not a funny moment, but a good, well, it's somewhat funny, but a good moment between Michael and Pam, in which they're sitting down having a conversation. Talking about what went wrong on the night, Michael talking about how they're both victims of broken engagements, and of course, Michael was never engaged, but Michael goes, I was in the arena though, and then he's like, so we're like, so alike, and leans in for that kiss, and Pam's like, what are you doing? Michael's like, what are you doing? And Pam's like, I'm rejecting your kiss.
I mean, she's blatant. I like that. I'm like, she's literally saying what she's doing. I'm rejecting you. And Michael needs that. Like, my God, my guy. Probably maybe the worst moment in Pam and Michael's relationship, because Pam and Michael end up being one of the most special duos in the history of the show. And this is probably like a massive blemish on the radar. We get some really good moments in this season, I believe, as well, with Michael and Pam that I'm really looking forward to. This is one to forget.
100%. It's the first time he crosses the real big line when it comes to Pam and his friendship. And of course, she still gives him a ride home, but just says he has to sit in the back.
Yeah.
I think it's comical that Andy has a blow-up mattress to sleep in the office, but also very smart, as we said, don't drink and drive. So at least Andy came prepared. Office romance, as we mentioned, Jim tries to ride his bike. He's a drunk driver. Karen gets in, helps him out, gets him in the car. He lays down. Cute moment between the two of them because Karen clearly at this point has a huge crush on Jim. And Jim may not have a huge crush, but Jim is certainly interested and likes the attention that he gets from Karen.
No doubt, no doubt. She's a beautiful woman. Karen Filippelli. Wonderful character. This is one of two times that Jim is drunk at work. Obviously in a Valentine's Day episode in the future, he goes out, gets a little boozy with his girl Pam.
Yes. Which leads to another funny moment in Pam's car in which Michael realizes these are not my shoes.
Do you want to know the origin? Do you want to know whose shoes they are and where it's come from, Kory?
Yes.
In a deleted scene, Ryan asks, "Where are my shoes?" This suggests that Michael took Ryan's shoes.
But Michael didn't mean to. It doesn't sound like it, right? Yeah. Okay. So it was an accident.
Yeah.
But it obviously that to me was funny. Yeah, that's the last line of the episode is what you got to dive into yourself. So I'm not going to spoil it.
I will. The final trivia point before I do a bit of singing for everyone is that the shooting script actually called for Andy, Karen, and Jim to go to a bar and get drunk. Jim and Karen have a sloppy drunken makeout session in the parking lot. Rashida Jones was worried that the fans would hate her. The scene was shot, but Stephen Merchant actually recommended that it be cut. Good choice by Stephen Merchant.
Yes, I wouldn't want to see a drunk makeout session between those two.
It doesn't feel like it's in their characters either. Like, even if they are drunk.
It would have made it more... it would have made that relationship feel more short-termish.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, we've all gotten drunk. We've all obviously had those drunk night, make-out sessions or hookups with, like, another person, and they don't really go anywhere. So to see, like, Karen and him if we saw Karen and Jim share that moment, I feel like as a viewer, we would have been like, well, it doesn't matter because that's obviously just because he's not with Pam. Like, then slowly building into a relationship at least makes a relationship feel like it could last, obviously, when the merger happens. So I'm glad a decision was made because it makes the whole Karen and Jim, like, breakup, obviously, that happens later on, feel harder and not as... Yeah, exactly.
My turn?
Yes, your turn, my friend.
All right. This is going out to Indians everywhere. It's a tribute to one of the greats, Mr. Adam Sandler. Diwali is a festival of lights. Let me tell you something. Tonight has been one crazy night. So put on your saris. It's time to celebrate Diwali. Everybody looks so jolly, but it's not Christmas, it's Diwali. The goddess of destruction, Kali, stop by to celebrate Diwali. Don't invite any zombies to my celebration of Diwali. Along came Polly to have some fun at Diwali. If you're Indian and you love to party, have a happy, 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 happy Diwali. Happy Diwali!
Woo! I wish I could whistle. Well done, Jack. Well done. Excellent performance. This will be... I hope everyone enjoys that. That was a free concert by Jack Manuel, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, the Diwali song is sung to the tune of Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song, which he came out with on SNL, I believe. One thing that I love during this scene is the intensity of Dwight's guitar playing. He's just slowly like... And then as Michael like builds up, he's just like...
You're really letting your rip.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, you get in there, Ryan. Now,
also a man of many talents, Dwight, that he can play the guitar.
Yeah, big time. He's the best salesman and also a guitar player. There's no wonder, the ladies love him, man. There's a lot beyond Angela. A lot of ladies do love him. Now, Michael also held a piece of paper with the lyrics to his Diwali song. This was an acting choice by Steve Carrell, who decided that Michael had written the song on the spot and needed to refer to his lyrics, which is awesome. Such a good choice.
Yeah. Smart choice. I agree. Is there any other trivia points for this episode?
That is all of them, my friend. There was a lot of them, and I was able to sort of intersperse them throughout the episode.
All right, so we're into... are there any funny moments we missed or office romance points that we should point out? I think we covered all that, right?
Yeah, we got all of it. It's heat check, rating, and MVP time.
All right, so here we go. Heat check performer of this episode. I feel like there's some decent nominations. Like, for me, the nominations I have Kelly.
Yep.
I have Andy.
Yep.
And I have Creed. But again, I don't think Creed wins this, but I just think Creed saying, oh, that's the union of the monkey. And just like the confidence in him saying it, to me, was comical. I feel like it's between Kelly and Andy, though.
I'm giving it to Andy because I don't think that he will get an MVP or maybe a heat check ever again. And this is the most likable, maybe the most likable scenes / episode of his entire arc. It's just like you said, Tilda! I love saying it.
I'm on board. Andy heat check. I'm with it. Like you said. And just the way he turns around. Shots! It's just like, all right.
No, 3.
I'm not driving. I got a blow-up mattress. I'm sleeping right here.
He's great. He's really, really good. And this is, incredibly likable moments. I'm a fan of his a cappella in this because, everyone else gets involved the closer I am to find. So good.
It's great. Again, tuna. Just the pure, genuine excitement is good. Now MVP. I think we're back on the Michael train, right? This is a Michael episode.
Yeah, definitely is. It's. I contemplated Andy for a little bit because he dominates the story arc in Scranton for me. In Stanford. Yeah. So I contemplated it, but Yeah, Michael, like the Diwali song alone, it's just perfect.
Yeah, and also just I think even though it's cringy, Michael proposing and being shot down in the facial expressions he gives, the miscue of what Kelly's mom is saying to him in Fair, misreading the signs with Pam and trying to kiss her, and didn't even mention it. The fact that he brings up that he has a Kama Sutra book to Carrell as she's about to leave, saying, "Should I come back to your place?" And she's just like, "Yo, like you just proposed. Like we're definitely not having sex tonight, though."
You gotta respect. Shouldn't
The
be
efforts.
shot.
I mean, shooters shoot. We say it all the time, right? Shooters shoot. Don't strike out, King. Keep going for it. He tried, but yeah, I think Michael for me would be the MVP as well.
Absolutely. What's your rating? The IMDb for those playing along at home was a 7.9 out of 10.
Okay, so I'm right on par. I gave it an 8. I don't think it was haha great funny, but there's some solid moments in it. I think it's still a strong episode and more of a serious undertone in certain aspects because also like we didn't mention in too much in depth, but like Pam is looking at her cell phone a lot, for example, when she goes out to meet Michael, and we didn't even mention that, but I was under the impression that she was kind of hoping Jim was going to show up.
Yeah, or at least give him you text her, you reconnect. The dating these days, it's just like there's the in-person stuff, there's the social media stuff, there's the texting, and all those different means of communication, and. I can imagine that they would text back non-for, and Jim is getting a little bit boozier throughout the night, so he's probably getting a bit more flirtatious, but then he's also probably getting a bit more sporadic and probably not responding as quickly because he's so buzzed, he's singing, he's thinking about Karen, but there's also a world where maybe it's Roy. I don't know. Maybe it is Roy, but I would assume it is Jim. I think that is a reasonable assumption to make. I also did give it an 8 out of 10 myself. I think it's, the last couple episodes have been steady. This one was just a good moment. And I think as well, the cultural significance of this episode is awesome. Mindy Kaling, I feel like we should give her a Kory check for writing and starring in this episode in such an awesome fashion. So I put it to you. Should we give heat checks for this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's even a better name of I want to say a most improved, but something in terms of outstanding performance.
Yeah, like finals MVP or something.
Yeah, it's something like that because again, she like you said, she wrote the episode.
Yep.
She had her parents in the episode. Yep. She's doing a lot in the episode. So she gets
It's like Russell Westbrook.
Outstanding performance for episode 6 goes to Mindy.
Yeah, look, I compare it to Russell Westbrook's MVP season because he just does everything, and Kelly does everything this episode as well, including get her parents on board. It's again, I can't say enough good things about Mindy Kaling. I'm such a massive fan of hers. I'm a massive fan of everyone that's involved with The Office, but Mindy Kaling, I love the Mindy Project. It's a show that I really enjoy. All the stuff that she's involved in, her friendship with BJ Novak, in real life is also awesome. And I'm glad that this show has just spurred so many careers. It's awesome, and again, the cultural significance of they replaced the Halloween episode, which are normally some of their most popular episodes for the show, like those and the Christmas ones.
Yeah.
And for any sort of American sitcom TV comedy program, it's always like Halloween, a Thanksgiving, a Christmas one. To just take that risk, obviously it deserves so much credit to Greg Daniels and Mindy Kaling because it's not just a good Diwali episode. It's a really good episode of TV and a really funny one at that. So shout out to Greg Daniels, Mindy, and the entire cast.
And just looking ahead, I feel like this episode ends with obviously Michael singing, and the next 6 or 7 episodes are really good episodes.
Oh yeah,
so we're at a launching point for season 3, as we both mentioned, is one of at least I know for sure one of my top 3 seasons, maybe even my favorite when we get down through it. But it's a very good season. We're on a point where it's about to get really, really interesting and fun to talk about.
It's going to be harder to rate, harder to find those MVPs, harder to find those, the heat check performers. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4. There's probably a 6 or 7 episode span where this is just out of control.
Yeah. 100%. Final thoughts, Jack. Where can the people find you?
At the J-Man JBT on Twitter. On Coast and Brooklyn Buzz, obviously, JBT. OTD Basketball on YouTube. You want to see our faces? Make sure you're doing that. If you're listening to the podcast right now, definitely do that too. And yeah, there's so much content on OTDBasketball.com. Video content, written content, draft, free agency, all NBA basketball stuff. Remember, in the office isn't going to stop just because the NBA season is coming. It is going to be gangbusters, content for days from Kory, Nick, myself, and everyone, all the writers and podcasts at OTDBasketball.com.
A lot of stuff going on, as Jack mentioned. We are 46 days yesterday. We're 45 days today away from the NBA season starting, which means free agency, the NBA draft, training camp, all that good stuff is going to be coming on rather quickly. 2 weeks, basically. So definitely stick with OTGBasketball.com for the latest greatest NBA content. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at KWallHoops, KWAL Hoops. And again, like Jack said, all major streaming platforms, YouTube at OTG Basketball. Check us out, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Until next time, peace out, knuckleheads.